Hey all. Um, I recently got a new batch of Magnetar enclosures in, and I hadn't had them in a while, and like way too long, and um, it got me thinking about how there isn't a decent demo of them out there. I mean, there's like an old one that's good, but I really feel like it needs a narrated demo, kind of explain what the controls do, and it just narrated demos always give you a much more detailed idea of what the pedal does and how it sounds. And when I know, like, when I post just like a little clip, like, oh, I just built, here's a newly built blah blah blah, and then I play a couple notes, and it sounds heavy and distorted, and it's like, well, it's like hard to tell, like, how it differs from other heavy distorted things out there, or fuzzes, or distortions, or whatever. Um, and it's an important design of mine. It's one of my early designs, and as I've said before, Mountain King came about as a result of me trying to find a bass fuzz or bass distortion that fulfilled my needs. Something that had massive low end, that was tweakable, that had, like, an intense, you know, timbre and all that. And um, I started, tinkering around and trying to design my own, and that's how Mountain King started. And there was the Megalith, and then the Magnetar, and it really um it was it was a sound that I was searching for, um and it was awesome to be able to design a sound, this bass fuzz that was what I had been searching for before I realized that I could design my own. um so anyway, yeah, let's check out the Magnetar, and you get to hear me talk about it. So the first thing you need to know about the Magnetar is that it is a gated fuzz. It the circuit has like a threshold sensitivity trigger point thing, that the input signal, your bass or whatever you're putting into it, needs to break through before you get sound out of it. Um, and the sensitivity of that is determined by a number of things, but mostly how you have the input control set, because this kind of is a input attenuator. And also your playing dynamics. So you kind of set this to just where you feel like is the right spot for you, and then you use your playing dynamics to determine whether you know it's short and choppy, or drony, sustain forever kind of thing. Because you know it's it is unlike any other gated buzz that you've ever played on, because you can get like almost limitless sustain. Like, you can set it so that it will sustain longer than you would ever want to hold a note. But I'm not judging, if that's your thing. um but anyway, so yeah. And unlike some other gated fuzzes, um it can do some less saturated tones. A lot of times the gated thing is because the way the circuit is designed, it's usually multiple stages slamming into each other, and then biased in this way that, like, there's this trigger point and it just blasts after that. So you often don't get lower saturation sounds out of the gated fuzzes. That's what I'm trying to get to. Trying to explain. um And really, that's where I think this shines. But I'll show you, like, the intensity control is essentially like a gain control for the circuit. And then, like I said, the input control is a input attenuator. So between the two, you will get, they determine how saturated the distortion is and the sensitivity of the gating. And you kind of have to use, they're very interactive, so you kind of tweak between the two until you find the spot that the right amount of saturation and the right amount of gating and sensitivity and blah blah blah. And then, like I said, you use your playing dynamics for the rest of it. So let's just check out. I'll show you what the input control does first, and then we'll move on to the intensity control. The input control has a wide range, and this is because you can use this with a wide range of instruments. So if you're using something passive, like a bass, passive bass pickup, something with passive pickups, you usually want to have it set about noon onward. And if you were plugging like a synth module into it, or maybe a hot keyboard, you'd have it down lower. And depending on the strength of the signal you're putting into it, once you get past noon, it starts to change the shape of the distortion. I'll show you that. Now let's check out what lower intensity. Next, we have this tone control section, which, if you're familiar with the Megalith, you'll see that it's on the outside the same. This is because I come up with this tone control circuit that I can tweak for different circuits, but that works for pretty much any circuit. Meaning, like, the structure of the circuit is the same from pedal to pedal, but the actual values of the components and stuff I make different and fine tune for different whatever, you don't care. So, and for those of you not familiar with that, you have the slope, and this goes from, it's like high cut and bass to not so much low cut, but more treble. It's kind of hard. It's hard to explain, but at its brightest this way, and as you turn it this way, it adds low end and mellows high end. And then you have the notch control, and this kind of determines the boost or cut of the mid range, and then the notch shift determines the cutoff frequency of that cut or boost. And it's mostly affects the cut. So you'll notice you'll notice how this changes the sound more when you have the notch the notch knob turned, what's that? My left, my right. Um, Sorry, I'm being funny. Yeah, so let's I'll just show you. You can get a wide range of tones with this uh filtering section here. You can get it like deep and like muffled, or like intense and like mid-rangey and searing. And but no matter where you have it set, it still retains the low end, and in most cases boosts the low end. It may be hard to kind of hear that um, on this video, so I would definitely recommend you wearing headphones if you don't already have them on, because the subs are just nuts. Coming out of the low end coming out of this thing is just ridiculous. If you, and the fact that it has such a punchy attack makes it say, like, when you hit a note, it just like moves the air in the room like in this crazy way. It's awesome. That was my amp getting totally overloaded by this. I'm telling you, it's a powerful pedal, man. That's why Magnetar, it had to have like a massive, like, powerful name, right? And if you want to know if it really does kind of sustain forever, it can sustain more than that. But my finger starts hurting. You have to like really keep it steady on the fret. Anyway, that's the Magnetar. Hopefully this has given you a better idea of what it can do, what it does, how the controls work, and all that. So, yeah. All right, guys.